everybody. My name is Michael Pacifico, and welcome to another episode of the Chismis Corner podcast.
I'm your host, Laika Mamril.
And again, I'm your host, Michael Pacifico, and today we have a special guest. Her name is Michelle. Say hello.
Hi, I'm Michelle.
And if anyone doesn't know who you are and what kind of interaction you have with Pitt FSA, kind of give us the rundown of like your affiliation, I guess.
So I'm just a member of FSA, but I'm also the president of the Multiracial Student Association at Pitt. I'm the president, so yeah.
Okay. And all right, well, just to kind of go into that, so our topics for today are going to be multiculturalism and identity. And so I guess for like you being the president, my first question would be like, what does Musa like advocate for? Like,
pretty much. I mean, in the name it says multiracial, but I think honestly we're very big about intersectional identities. So we aim towards advocacy and also creating community for people who aren't just multiracial, biracial, but transracial adoptees, multi-ethnic people, multicultural people. Because essentially everyone in those communities face the same struggles, the same things. So yeah, okay. But Musa overall, we're a group for advocacy, creating a strong community within the mixed groups. We also try to talk about a lot of mental health that goes on in there, and just try to kind of heal our younger selves, try to fix the identity crisis that a lot of us may have faced. And then we also try to have, some fun social events, do community service, but we also try to educate people or educate ourselves on different experiences that we all may have faced.
Okay. So like one of the talking points I have that you might be able to kind of just use as like a generalization, but like, so how was it growing up as being part Filipino, part everything?
So I'll just like throw it out there. My mix is really mixed. I'm basically like Bruno Mars. So my dad's, he's white, he's European. So he's born and raised in Virginia. His mom is Ecuadorian, born and raised, but she's Spanish and Italian. His dad is German and English, but yes, basically white. My mom's side, she's born and raised in Ecuador, but her parents are Spanish and Filipino. And then, so I'm mixed into there. I'm born and raised in Virginia, but as a kid, I didn't know what race or ethnicity or like any of that meant, because I honestly grew up around mixed people. Like my family friends were mixed. Like there was my one best friend growing up, she's Spanish and Lebanese, another one Blasian. So just everywhere around me, like I'd go, I just thought it was normal to see that kind of mix. So it was only till I went to I would say like elementary school, like when I started school, where I really saw that I guess I was different, or like I was mixed. Because I mean, growing up, no one really told me, oh, like, you're this. It was just kind of like I was in a big melting pot, and I kind of just vibed with it. Just thought, okay, cool. I'm just vibing. But yeah, it wasn't until I was exposed to other people that I was like, okay, this is different. So like, I remember, I think it was like first grade, where someone went up to me and was like, oh, you're not Spanish, like your last name's Evans, there's no way. And I was like, what? And then another person was like, like did the racist eye thing, and I was like, how did you know I was Asian? And it's just weird, because I'm like, how do people know? Like, yeah. And I remember I also always got like, what are you? Or a lot of people thought I was adopted. Like when I was a baby, my mom would always tell me, because she owns a daycare, so whenever people would pick up their kids, they'd see me and they'd be like, oh, is that like a new kid here? And she was like, no, that's my daughter. Whenever I went to the grocery store, or even like Home Depot with my dad, like people would think he's like stealing a kid or something. It was really bad. Or sometimes I think when I was first born, I think my family on both sides were like, is that really your kid? Like there was like, did someone cheat or something? Because I was born with like black hair, and then I think like a few months later it went completely blonde. And everyone on my mom's side has black hair. My dad's side, black hair until like my grandparents. So that's where they were like, the hell happened there? Because my brother and my sister, like, they look completely different too. But anyways, yeah, so just kind of growing up, like once I went to school is where people started being like, oh, what are you? Or like, you can't be this or that. So then it was really weird. Like it got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm just going to pretend I'm this. So like my elementary school, everyone was white. So I would pretend to be fully British, and I would pretend to be Jewish. Like I'd be like, yeah, I celebrate Hanukkah. You know, I'd fake a British accent. I don't understand. Anyways, yeah. And then I remember like whenever I met like Hispanic people, or if I met Filipino people, it would be like a different experience. So like if I went to like Hispanic friends' houses, they'd like say certain words to me, or like they would talk about different customs, and I'd be just like dead fish, like what? Like I don't get what you're talking about, or like I don't even understand what they're saying because it's like different. But I went with Filipino friends' houses. I was like, okay, yeah, like I understand. You know, like I was like, okay, I get it. But yeah, like my mom, like her side's more like multi-generationally mixed, if that makes sense. So like they're the side that was like colonized, if that, yeah. So the Filipinos kind of like lost in there. I feel like not a lot of people talk about those kind of Filipinos, because there are Filipinos who are proud, but then there are Filipinos who were taken to Spain. And because of the hierarchy, where the closer you are to like Spanish blood, the more like pure or whatever you are. So there's that. But yeah, it's just like, it was just kind of a mess, because I never knew exactly what I was until I was like 8, where my cousin like sat me down. I think it was at my sister's like quince and 16, where he was like, yeah, no, this is, we're Spanish and Filipino on this side, like that's what we are, just nobody talks about it. And I was like, okay, that makes sense, because yeah, whenever I'm with like people who are fully Spanish, like we don't do the Day of the Dead, we don't do I don't even know, like specific things. It's just completely different. But there's a lot of Filipino stuff that I'm like, okay, yeah, we do that. But yeah, then with my dad's side, he's just white, so it's like, okay, there's really no confusion to that. And then I remember when I was in high school, that's when people started being like, oh, what do you put on like your applications, or like what do you put on like the SAT stuff, or like what do you put on what did you put on SOLs, or just like standardized tests and stuff, or like what was it, like the AP tests? People were like, what did you put? Like sometimes it'll like I don't think some places back then would have the other checkbox, but when that wasn't there, it'd be like choose all that apply, or it'd be like choose one, and I would be like sweating. I'd be like, fuck, like I like literally like I'd have a stroke. Like I could put white, but the thing is that I'm like, okay, I'm not white, if you get what I mean. Like I'm like just dishonoring my mom's side, because it's like she doesn't exist. But if I put like Hispanic, it's like, okay, no. But if I put Asian, it's like, okay, no. But you know, so it's just like I don't know what to put. So usually I'll just leave it blank if it comes to that. But I mean, nowadays I think there's other, and then there's a mixed option, so that's nice. There's been times where I have family members who, like on my mom's side, really like fetishize how I look specifically than my siblings, because my siblings, like they look more like Hispanic or like Filipino. I'm the one where it's like I look more white, so I look more like racially ambiguous. So they really like my like lightish brown hair. They like my like eyes, my nose, how it's different. they're always like, oh my God, like you look so like beautiful. Like you should be a model. They're always telling me I need to be a model. I'm like, girl, no. Just things like that. Or they're like, my mom, like her whole side is always like, you need to go to Germany. You need to find a German man. Like they have been stuck on that since day one. And I'm like, okay. And then on my dad's side, they don't really care. They're just like, okay, whatever. But it's his mom. Like with every mixed person growing up, I think there's always one side where you just don't talk to them at all because someone's racist. My grandma, my dad's mom, is that person. She does not like my mom. Like, period. Like, she will just, I don't even know why. I just remember her telling us, like, oh, your mom's a bad person. Just things like that. And it's like, okay, like, you're weird. But yeah, just things like that. It's like, it's problematic because, like, if you celebrate holidays, you can't be with both families. It's either one or the other. And then if you're with one side, like for example, if I'm with my mom's side celebrating Christmas, me and my brother and my sister, we're just sitting there kind of like, damn, we're really like out of place because like, you know, we can't speak the language very well, or like we look different. Like I have cousins that sometimes like would lock me out of their rooms and be like, oh my God, like, no, you're not one of us. Like, you don't look like us. Like, you can't hang out with us. I was like 5. I was like, okay. So I literally would play with the dogs, stuff like that. But yeah, it's always like that. And then, I mean, there's obviously like people will fetishize, like mixed people will be like, oh yeah, I want mixed babies, or like, you're so exotic. Or I remember in high school, they were explicit, like for beach week, there was like 3 guys in my group who were like, oh yeah, I called dibs on her because she's part Filipino. I was like, ew, this is disgusting. Oh my God. And then like when people found out like I was part Spanish, they would try to like be like, ooh, Spanish mommy. And I'm like, this is disgusting. I don't even know. It's just cringe. Yeah, things like that. It was just weird. Like there was people like all over the place just telling me, you can't be this, you can't be that, you have to pick one. Like I remember one time I had a really close family friend who was like, you're not Asian, I've known you my whole life. Like, girl, you are not at that conversation when my cousin was literally sitting all of us down and telling us, this is what you are. But yeah, so like growing up, it's really complicated. It kind of hits you like a truck because like you grow up thinking being mixed is normal. Like you don't care about race, you don't care about culture. Like you just see everything as like normal. Like you don't like know what you are. Well, like you know what you are, but it's not like, it's not thrown at your face, if that makes sense. It's more like when you're with other people who are like monoracial or stuff, they're kind of like, you're weird, you're different in there.
Do you think that like has changed since like contrasting since you've grown up to like now? Do you think like it's now more of a like you're mixed, like that's a good thing? Because like we had this conversation a little bit in terms of just kind of like representations of being like a Filipino or just being something and something else. We were saying that like, you know, at what point does, we're just going to use Filipino as the example, but at what point does being a Filipino stop? Because like, and I'll use this example. So I took like a 23andMe test and it was like, I'm 97% Filipino. And I was like, damn. I was like, fuck. But then I was like, well, maybe like the 3% is like, you know, the like Hispanic, some like Spaniard side. And then I was like, no, it's like the other 3% is like also Asian. And the 3% is like Chinese, Vietnamese, and Bhutan. And, you know, let's say, you know, because, you know, numbers are, you know, it could be 0, it could be 1. Everything's like, you know, science or whatever. But let's say like those 1% are valid. At one, like, do you like, if I were to go to like Casa and be like, yeah, I'm Chinese, man. I know damn well they're not going to be like, yeah, welcome. Like, you know, because like, you know, like to a certain extent, you know, especially like for people who like do the identity thing, like for example, like a white chick, if she's like German, Spanish, French, like whatever, even if it's 25% or 1%, she can claim it and everybody will be like, hey, you do you, girl. But then if you're like Asian and you're in my situation and I were to be like, oh, maybe I'm 5% Chinese, I'm not gonna get that pass on that one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's because definitely there's a lack of support and like overlap in certain communities. Like I know there's like with my boyfriend, for example, I know like he's told me like on some of his family sides, they specifically have told him, you need to be with a Vietnamese person, like keep that blood pure. So that could be why like a lot of people are like, there's no way you're part Chinese. You know, Chinese people only date Chinese people. Like you got to keep that blood going. It could be that. But I don't know. I mean, some people are accepting of it. Some people aren't. How we see it in Musa is we try to like, ignore numbers. Like we try to not say, oh, I'm half this, I'm quarter this. We try to say I'm this because it's like you're representing all of you. Like for example, like if we were putting into play like my like I guess genetics or whatever, I'm mainly white, but it's like if it makes sense to say I was mostly ingrained into not white culture, so I can't say I'm just white. You know, so I feel like as long as you're raised by it, you've dealt with it, you have that experience, then that 1% means more than that. But yeah, I feel like it's different for everyone. Like I claim like Filipino, German, all that, Spanish, but my sister, she only claims Spanish because she feels more connected to that. But she acknowledges that like she is mixed, but she just feels more connected to Spanish culture. My brother's the same as me, but yeah, it's different for everyone. I feel it's solely based on like how you were raised, what you've seen and stuff.
It's more of just being like your environment.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything you want to add, Laika?
Yeah. So you talked about how you struggled with, identity growing up, but coming to Pitt, were you aiming to look for like, a culture org? Was Musa like the place that you felt most comfortable with, or like, you remember at FSA, and like, could you like speak on, I guess, like that experience?
Yeah, so I mean, when I first came to Pitt, like my freshman year, I didn't do any clubs besides like all chem society, but like my like I literally was like, okay, I don't care, I don't have time. But my sophomore year, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to like merge into like, meet more people, join new clubs. So I went to ASA for like 2 minutes and I was like, fuck, I look too white for this. I was in SACE for like 3 meetings.
I wasn't.
And literally we had to do this like, I don't even know, like this icebreaker where everyone was like, find everything you all have in common. So someone was like, we're all Asian. Then someone was like, wait, I don't think so. And I was like, oh my god, they're looking at me. I was like, I need to leave. So that was out of the list. I was like, fuck no, I cannot be in there. So I joined FSA. It was chill, but like still like I feel like I look too white, if that makes sense. Like maybe to some people I look Filipino, but I feel like I mostly look white to some people, if that makes sense. So that's where it just kind of gets awkward. So it's like, can I really like be this involved?
Well,
if that makes sense.
Actually, now that you kind of talk about it, I kind of want to bring up, because we did have this conversation with Julianne, and a lot of culture groups always kind of cater to their own ethnicity, and you were saying that like let's just even though you are Filipino, let's just say 100% white, but you still wanted to join. But even then, like, because we're supposed to be advocating for just representation for the culture, not just keep the culture itself, kind of like the mentality of like people being like, oh, keep the culture pure, that type of thing. And you just saying that like, even though you might have you are Filipino, but you didn't look or feel like it, and you still felt kind of left out. I feel like that's definitely a thing that like culture not only just FSA but culture orgs
Yeah,
as a whole need
I
to
think
focus on?
every culture org at Pitt is very exclusive, not wanting to be open to everyone, like anyone who's interested in wanting to learn about this culture. But they're like, no, if you're a part of this culture, you can only be in that. Like they will, like, I know like a lot of people in Musa have said, one culture org was like, you're too light skinned, you can't be here, you're not black enough. Another one, she felt excluded because she felt like she wasn't black enough. Another one told me he was told to leave, that he can't join because he looks white and he has a very Punjabi name, first and last name. He's just white passing. So a lot of people, they like e-board literally sent him an email. He didn't see it, but they took him out of a meeting and said, hey, you make people uncomfortable. You can't be here.
Damn.
I know other people who have, they're South Asian, so they're Indian. Tried joining one org, felt like everyone was just East Asian, didn't feel represented, feel like they couldn't be there, left. Like for me, myself, I remember trying to be going to something in LSA, and I was like, fuck, I feel really left out. Like, I don't know. It's just like, shade. It's just like, I don't know. Yeah, but it's a big thing. Like, a lot of people try to keep it as a place where people who are in the community can only be in it, when it really, I feel like, should be open. Because if you're keeping it to them, how can other people learn about it? How would people want to join? There's like issues with that. But
yeah, I think that's interesting because our last podcast episode, like Julianne, Mike, and I, we kind of delved into like more so the Asian orgs because that's what we're familiar with and what we have experience with. But it's interesting to see that it's also in other culture orgs that are outside the Asian community, and that kind of like begs the question of just like what culture means to people and why there's such resistance to opening it up to other people. And do you think it's like fear of people like misappropriating culture? Like, what do you guys think, and why do you think like there's such a hold?
Well, I want to bring up like one of the points that I've thought about, because like I don't know if you're familiar with Stanley.
yeah.
So we had Stanley on episode 2, and he joined eBoard for a year. And I always told Stanley, I was like, you're more Filipino than me, like 100%. Don't even trip. And he's always like, no, and I'm like 100%. Like, you try to learn the language, you love the food, you start cooking the food. Like, to me, even though obviously to be a culture, you have to have it in your blood or a percentage or whatever, but I feel like in terms of just kind of preserving the culture, it doesn't matter, because if for some reason all Filipinos wiped off the earth, but like the culture is still there, if someone is still preserving that culture regardless if they're Filipino, that's still Filipino. That's still and I feel like people always get stuck into the mentality that like you need to be this first, and that's the first step, then you can do whatever you want. Then you can be it, and you can represent being a Filipino, being mixed race, everything like that. But like, I don't know, what do you think in terms of just like identity in that sense?
Yeah, I feel like you can't blame the people in the orgs. I feel like it's more of something they've been taught by their parents. And if you think about it, a lot of people's parents are like from like, I don't know, like let's say like the 60s, 80s, whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's too far up, but yeah. But if you think about back then, there were a lot of problems. Like 50 years ago, interracial marriage was okay in the U.S. So that's a thing. I think it's only like more accepting of people trying to learn about cultures in Canada, the USA, and South America, and even South Africa, as I've heard. But what I've learned and heard from other people who are from other countries in Asia, Europe, I would say Australia too is like part of the like US part, where like more accepting of like interracial stuff. but yeah, all the other parts, they're more about you need to be within your community, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if you've like seen in high school, maybe, like I remember seeing all the East Asians would sit at a table and be like, if you're not East Asian, you can't sit here, which is really weird. I don't know. I think it's just like, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just something like that the parents may have had like generational trauma, maybe. Like I know many people might not have heard of it, but there's like Unit 71 or something, Unit 732 something. But it's basically what the Japanese did to the Chinese, and it's like the Holocaust, I would say, pretty much. Not many people have heard of it. Oh, Unit 731, that's what it is. So I know a lot of people who are Chinese cannot be with anyone who's Korean. I've met people like that. I've met people who are Korean who hate people who are Chinese, or I know people who are Japanese and like they hate people who are Chinese or Korean, and they can't associate with people like that. It's really weird. But that's why. So yeah, I think it's just like it's something that they've been taught. So like, especially like when seeing it in FSA, I feel like a lot of people maybe just want to keep it with Filipino culture or something because of colonization, I would say. They are afraid of someone taking it, claiming it as their own maybe, or I don't even know, just doing something, or like cultural appropriation. I feel like people kind of misunderstand cultural appropriation or things like that. Like for me, I had a friend who's Pakistani and she's Muslim. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself someone who's really religious. I grew up as a Catholic, but like, I mean, I don't really have too much belief in it or like whatever. Yeah, I'm just kind of there. I'll do the holidays, whatever, but yeah.
Same.
I can't even do an Our Father. I don't even know. But yeah, all I got is this. But yeah, I remember her mom invited me to like Ramadan prayer. So they gave me a sari to wear, and I had to wear a hijab, not a full-on hijab. I can't remember the name of it, but it's just like a veil just to cover your hair. I mean, obviously, I don't know anything what's going on. I just, did what everyone kind of was doing, respected it. But I feel like if people were on the outside maybe looking at what I'm doing would be like, that's disrespectful. But it's like, I'm acknowledging it. I'm respecting it. They welcomed me in to celebrate with them in a sense. So I feel like as long as you can respect it, put some time into yourself to do research on it maybe or something, or just to like learn more about it, then it's okay. With my boyfriend, he's Vietnamese. I'm obviously not Vietnamese, so like, but like, I'll try to like, maybe learn a little bit of Vietnamese, learn more about his like country's history, just to kind of understand kind of what happened in Vietnam, because I feel like we don't really learn about it too much about the Vietnam War. So like, I remember like there's a lot of people who are Vietnamese who only like have like the yellow flag with I think it's the 3 or 2 red stripes, but they never have the country flag, the red one with the star. And I didn't know that. I didn't know the reason why until my boyfriend told me like the other day. He was like, oh, it's because that's the communist flag. So like people are gonna hold the yellow one because that's the flag of the South. No one really wants to show a tribute to the communist flag, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'll try to like learn more about it just because like I want to be respectful. But I feel like if people like see me listening to like Asian music, they'll be like, girl, that is cultural appropriation or something. Or if they see me in Ao Yai, I'm like, I'll probably have to be like, my boyfriend's Vietnamese, like this is his culture. I have to be respectful for it. If they want me to wear it, I'll wear it. But I just think there's a lot of people who, I think there's just a lot of fear of that. Yeah, I would say in these cultural orgs where they don't want people to, I guess, associate with it, if that makes sense. Like they probably don't want a white person learning Tagalog, just because it probably like generational trauma. It probably is going to be like feel similar to colonization, but it's like, okay, this is different. Yeah, like these are people wanting to learn about it. not people trying to like shoot you, kill you, disobey, like just all that stuff. Like people just want to learn, so you should be open about it. And if you're not going to be open about it, people are going to hate you, create stereotypes.
Right.
Yeah. Like from what I've seen, I think it's like from Pitt, it's very exclusive in the cultural orgs. Because like when I went to my friend's school, like JMU or like Virginia Tech, VCU, there's white people on board. Like there's not even Filipino on e-board. Like there's Chinese, Vietnamese, white people, black people on e-board for FSA or FASA fact. And like the whole world, like it's so diverse. You're good. It's so diverse in it, and they're like having so much fun, and like it's so big. Like it's such a big org compared to what we have here in FSA at Pitt. Like we have like maybe like 20 people show up to an e-board meeting. There, it's like a whole lecture room filled up, like 200 people.
Damn.
Yeah, so it's like I feel like if we're more open to allow other people into seeing our culture and stuff, then we could have bigger opportunities. Like we could probably join people for their like tournaments. Like some people have football tournaments, soccer tournaments. Today, my friends at VCU, they won the tournament for the FSA in like D6 or something, or D12. They won it, the tournament, and it was like this big trophy, like this big, and it was like a team of like 30 people. Like we could be doing that. Like they even go on trips. They have a Met Gala of like everyone in the DMV. So like I feel like if people are more open to allowing people in to like learning our culture, just like even like as a school organization, like this is not meant to like be exclusive. Like it's supposed to be fun. Like that's the main thing. You're supposed to have fun and learn. Not just stay within your community. Like that's your family. Like, you know, like if you want to be within your community, go home. You know, like if you want to see some fellows, just go home. But like here, like people want to meet people want to socialize. So you just got to open up. Yeah. Because it'll bring more opportunities, more things for to come and all that. Yeah.
Damn. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I think you made really good points about generational trauma.
Yeah.
And just like how to unpack that. Because now that I think about it, it does look like a defense mechanism, you know, from things that have happened historically. But I think we have to unlearn certain things. Like, let's say, like, you know, a non-Filipino coming in to want to learn about Filipino culture. Obviously, we can't just mark that off as something like harmful, you know.
And it's just like you see it and you see that like the opportunity has already presented itself, but we never like take advantage of it at all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, like, cause I'm just like a member. Like I've never done e-board, barely go to events, and you know, I'm just here, and you know, like given the opportunity, we were able to do a podcast and do all the cool stuff, but like, you know, like I never get to see, you know, who goes to the events. Like the only like time I ever was really like involved was probably when we were like in COVID, and I was like, shit, I guess I'll just join the Zoom.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like from what I see from like other places that are more opening to other people joining, they have like their e-board's huge. They have like internal and external e-board. It's really weird. I don't understand it, but yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah. I don't know if this is off topic or not, but do you think it's like also because like when you look at other like, I guess, organizations, there's always like, to me, there's always like pieces of those organizations that are like trendy globally, and they're like, oh, okay, I want to look at that. But Filipino like culture or just like groups in general, I never really feel like we've ever had like a thing. Because like, look, like the most obvious one, like K-pop. Oh, let me just go to Casa. What's popping over there? And I'm pretty sure like their diversity or ratio in terms of like people are probably more like diverse than even ASA in terms of, you know what I'm saying? And that's just strictly just due to something that's like external to just them being Korean. But do you think that like plays a factor into that any?
Kind of like when I asked like people at these other schools, because even like people in like at UMD, because they have a big Filipino population, but even still it's really diverse. They tell me their fam is like the ASA, like that's like the place, like that's the spot to go, like that's the big club. So everyone wants to go there. Like I know at JMU their fam, they have a beauty pageant, like they have it used to be Mr. Fam. So like they had the whole world go into that. Like I'm not even kidding. People see that like FSA is like the spot to be at schools. But like even in other clubs, like I know like VSA, it's diverse and stuff, but it's not as big as what I've seen FSA stuff been, or like Filipino clubs be. So I feel like, I mean, that could be us. Like if we were more opening, we could be joining them. Like we could be going to these tournaments, we could be invited to these Met Galas, like with all these connections. They even go to beach trips, like these people go on trips, like they go to town, because like if you have that many people, if you have like merch and stuff, fundraisers, you're gonna get so much money, and you can use that to like, I don't even know, you can to do stuff. But yeah, I think popularity kind of plays a factor. But yeah, it's like, I mean, I guess the big org here would be ASA, but like for everywhere else, it's FSA. But obviously, it's not going to be FSA here if we're not opening
the doors. You know?
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. Well, to be honest, I have no more questions. So
Yeah, me too.
I don't know. Is there anything that you'd like to bring up, just in terms? I know you've been talking a lot, but like,
you're
you
good.
know.
I mean, another thing about like people being very exclusive, it kind of hurts the mixed community. Because I'm even with transracial adoptees, like they've told me they've tried going to ASA and they just feel so secluded because like they won't have like traditional clothing, or like they can't speak the language obviously because they're raised by like white people, for example. So then they'll feel so left out that like, because like I feel like in ASA they focus so much on like traditional values that they're not like thinking about like the American Asian experience specifically. They're thinking of like straight off like just Asian experience, not Asian American. So it kind of leaves these mixed kids out. And like the thing is, like when you're white passing, like you know what you are, but other people don't. So it's when these groups are not very open, inclusive, you're just gonna feel like, damn, am I not black enough? Am I not this enough? So it really just brings more of like an identity crisis of like what you think you can claim. Or like I know like we have some people in Musa who are like, oh, like I'm Sikh or Filipino, and like they feel like they can't wear traditional clothing because they're white passing. And if people see them, they're gonna think they're cultural appropriating these things. So it's, yeah, I feel like people really should know the lines between them, or else it's gonna get all messy.
How long has Musa been like established for?
I think Musa's fairly new. I think they were established like 5 years ago, but we're fairly a small club, slowly growing. I think this year we've grown a lot, because like last year during COVID, it would just be e-board and 2 other people. Yeah, so
Damn.
yeah, like at our elections nobody showed up. We just voted for ourselves like 15 times to make it like worth something.
Well, do you think just to like for food for thought, do you think that like if these, you know, because essentially what you're saying is that like, you know, they've been outcasted essentially, you know, respectively, if they are or aren't a part of those culture groups, if they want to, you know, share the culture, just have an appreciation for it, they can't even have that aspect of doing that. Do you think that like if that were the case, that like Musa wouldn't even be here, or is Musa like the like creation of us being so like traditional? You know what I'm saying?
I think Musa honestly is the result of that, because all our talks, all our discussions, all our GBMs, we all have just a conversation of how outcasted we feel trying to be in a cultural org. Like everyone has like, there's that Mean Girls meme of like, raise your hand if you feel I don't even remember, but yeah, if you feel like you've been insulted by Regina George, everybody will raise their hand. Like everyone, a lot of people didn't even know that Musa existed, and they were like, oh yeah, once I found out that existed, I left ASA, or they were like, I left this org to come here, because they were like, I just felt so like alienated. Yeah, so I mean, Musa is basically the creation of being outcasted, because in Musa we're so accepting of different cultures. Like everybody's mix is different. Literally everyone's different, but we all like bond over it. Like we find a similarity in something. We share the same struggles. Yeah, so like I mean, that's the difference between us and other cultural orgs. Like we're more open. Like if you're not mixed, like we don't care, just come on in, learn. Like I know Athena's come, Nikki even comes. Like I remember we had a speed fronting event, and someone was like, oh, the wind blows if your mom's the ethnic one. I mean, shit, they still got up like because their mom's the ethnic one. Or just even like random shit, like even like monoracial people, I feel like you'd find some type of similarity. Like for Filipinos, there's a lot of people who think we're Hispanic, or like mix us up for something else. So like you'll find some type of similarity. So yeah, we're very open, because we've learned that like if you're trying to be exclusive, nobody's gonna want to join. Nobody's gonna want to care about you, learn about you. People are gonna stereotype you, be like, oh no, that's the shitty org. They're rude. All they do is talk shit. Or they're so exclusive, like no one's gonna want to mingle in and stuff like that. And then there's gonna be other orgs created because of that.
That was another thing I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
So like, because you know, there are obviously the, you know, like culture groups, then there's Musa, and then I think there's two fraternities. There's like Aurora, and then there's like an actual established Asian sorority. And do you think that like to a certain point, like let's say hypothetically someone gets mad, they're like, I want to break off, I start a new thing, and then someone else starts a new thing. Do you think that we're gonna get to the point where like we're so niched about just like not being so like exclusive that like we're gonna end up having so many like multiple groups of like, regardless if it's like cultural or just like anything like that? Do you think it's going to get to the point where like, you know, someone gets mad at ASA or FSA and they're just like,
yeah, it's honestly even becoming that. Like, I think CASA's exclusive to an extent because now there's a Cantonese Student Association. I know that apparently, I can't remember, I don't know, I think it's this year, but it's like a couple years back, like ASA has umbrella orgs. Taiwanese Student Association wasn't allowed to be an umbrella org. I don't know if it is now, but they weren't allowed to be included because of obviously like the beef with China and Taiwan. So it's like, bro, this is a school organization.
Damn, they're really taking it. Damn,
like
crazy.
This is not this is not the government, you know. So, like with Aurora, I've heard they were trying to be Kappas, like Kappa Delta Lambda. But Kappa Delta Lambda is cultural diversity, not East Asian. Like Alpha Sigma Rho, there's already that. I think Alpha Sigma Rho is the only Asian sorority that there exists. So, I mean, Aurora's trying to make another one, but then it's like at the end of the day, why try to be so, like, you know, like try to be more inclusive, you know what I mean?
Hey,
or
man, I'm
trying
trying to get the president real quick. So, you know, I'm already having those questions ready for her.
Shit.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Alpha Sigma, they're very new, and then Aurora is trying to be developed, but it's like Alpha Sigma, the ASR, they're gonna die if if they don't get any bids. Aurora, they won't even be a sorority if they don't have enough people to join. So it's like just be one thing.
Just meld it together.
Yeah.
I think we touched on this, but I feel like in Asian culture, like that the feuding between, like, no one wants to be just Asian. We want to be Filipinos. We want to be Vietnamese, Chinese. You know, we want to have that like individuality, but like in the end, even though that's like cool and like a short term thing, like that's obviously gonna bite us in the ass.
Well, I mean, what I've seen in like Asian culture, everything's about competition.
Oh yeah,
like
Filipino. I mean, Asian. Yeah, that's
about
100%.
So like, if someone does one thing, it's like, oh no, I gotta do another thing that's similar, but try to make it better.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, just be open, accept everyone who wants to be a part of it. I mean, you can make it different, like make it better, but I mean, if not, you're just gonna get a bunch of orgs, and you're gonna have like 2 people at some point in that org. So it's like, just be open. Yeah.
But yeah. All right. Well, I feel like we've allotted our time. So, you know, is there anything closing that you'd like to say for the podcast before we wrap up?
I mean, I would say just be more open, more respectful. If someone's mixed, if someone's white passing, don't be like, oh, you got to pick a side. Or like, I know in the Olympics, someone was like, you have to pick who you represent, either China or USA.
Damn, that was I forgot about that.
It's like, that's up to them. You can't force them to decide. I mean, being mixed, we're the future. At some point, whether you like it or not,
that's true.
Everyone's going to be mixed. Yeah.
All right. Well said. Well said. All right, guys. Thank you for watching this episode of the Chismis Corner podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Michael Pacifico.
I'm your other host, like a Mamrel.
And thank you for watching, guys. Goodbye.